Tonight's story goes back almost 80 years to a cold December afternoon in Vermont. A young woman named Paula Jean Welden steps out of her college dorm for a quiet walk in the woods. She was seen by dozens of people along the way, but sometime before sunset, she simply vanished and was never ever found. It's midnight somewhere, and tonight I have a story for you. Paula Welden was 18 years old. She was a sophomore at Bennington College in southwestern Vermont. She was quiet, she was independent, she was artistic, and she loved hiking and often walked the forest trails to clear her head. Her father was a well-known industrial engineer who had high expectations for Paula, and Paula carried that pressure quietly. It was Sunday, December 1st, 1946. Thanksgiving break had just ended and most of the students were easing back into their routines. That afternoon, Paula had finished her shift in the college dining hall. She returned to her dorm room, but she didn't settle in. Instead, she changed her clothes ready for a winter walk. She wore a bright red parka, blue jeans, white sneakers. She didn't have a hat, and she also didn't have gloves. And she also didn't take her purse or any sort of money. She told her roommate that she was going for a hike on the Long Trail, a famous 270-mile footpath that cuts straight through Vermont. It was about 2:45 p.m. when she walked out of the dorm, and very sadly, that was the last time anyone would ever see Paula alive. Now, several witnesses saw Paula hitchhiking along Route 67A, which is the main road outside of the campus. Two men driving a truck picked her up and dropped her near FB Harwood's, a well-known farm and store close to the trailhead. Other hikers reported seeing her walking confidently towards the forest. One older couple noticed quite distinctly that Paula didn't look dressed for the low temperatures for that day. It was already close to freezing and the temperature was dropping fast, but Paula seemed calm, she seemed focused, like she knew where she was going and what she was doing. Now, a man named Lewis Knapp later told police that Paula had been walking about 100 yards ahead of him on the Long Trail. He watched her turn a corner near a small footbridge. Then, when he reached the same spot, Paula was absolutely gone. There was no sound, there was no footprints, nothing was unusual. It was as if she'd stepped out of sight and vanished into the trees. Back at Bennington College, night fell. Paula's roommate noticed that she hadn't come back, but just assumed that she was staying somewhere on the campus. Hours passed, lights out came and went, and by the next morning, Paula's bed was still untouched. Her clothes from the previous day were still folded, and her textbooks were also untouched. She'd never mentioned that she ever intended to spend the night away. And unfortunately, this was the moment that everybody realized that something was very wrong. Bennington College notified the local authorities, but in 1946, Vermont had no state police. There was no coordinated system for missing persons. The search was really slow to start and really badly organized. When Paula's father arrived from Connecticut, he was absolutely furious. He personally pressured the officials to widen the search, and within days, over 300 people were combing the forests. There were volunteers, there were firefighters, there were experienced woodsmen, even the US Army aircraft. They searched the Long Trail, they searched streams and ravines, they searched back roads and off-trail wilderness, but unfortunately, not a single clue was found. There was no clothing, there was no blood, there were no tracks. Unfortunately, there were no footprints. There was absolutely nothing. It was as if Paula had simply walked into the mountains and disappeared from the face of the earth. Now, as you can imagine, many theories emerged. The first one was that she became lost. Temperatures that night fell well below freezing, but search teams covered every area that she could have possibly reached, and they found absolutely nothing. The second theory was that there was some sort of foul play involved. There were rumors of men following her on the trail, including a suspicious local man who later bragged about knowing where Paula was buried, but no evidence ever supported this. The third theory was voluntary disappearance. Paula was actually struggling with stress at college. Some wondered if she might have run away, but she had no money, no extra clothing, no travel plan, and no real known reason. And she left behind absolutely everything, including her coat for the night. The fourth theory is the mysterious Bennington Triangle. Paula's case became the most famous disappearance in a cluster of vanishings in that same region, later nicknamed the Bennington Triangle. Now, Paula's disappearance was so poorly handled by fragmented local authorities that it led directly to a major change. Within months, the state of Vermont created the Vermont State Police, which was an entire agency formed because of Paula's disappearance. To this day, unfortunately, Paula Jean Welden has never ever been found. There's been no remains, no trace, no answers, just a red jacket vanishing into an afternoon trail in the Vermont woods, and a mystery that still echoes through the mountains. If you like dark stories told at midnight, subscribe, because I drop 3 new mysteries every single week. See you at midnight.